You grew up in Brooklyn?
I grew up in New Rochelle.
New Rochelle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The neighborhood that you grew up in, middle class, lower class, how would you identify it as?
I mean, New Rochelle as a whole is mixed. You know what I mean? You got all different economic classes kind of coming together. But my immediate neighborhood, I'd say it was more, middle class.
Middle class.
Yeah.
Okay. So you never really had that issue of going back to the hood or whatever else?
Well, see, I used to be in the hood all the time, though. You see what I'm saying? Like, I live right up the block from, the projects or whatever. So
In New Rochelle?
yeah, one of the projects in New Rochelle. So
Okay, so you used to go, so even though you didn't live there, you would go.
yeah, to the point where people thought I lived there.
Okay.
I was there so much.
Interesting, okay.
But yeah, at the very end of the night, I'm sliding off down the block. So
Number one, why would you hang out in the projects? Why would a middle class kid in New Rochelle go and hang out in the projects?
because that's where my friends is at. That's where my peoples was at. Yeah.
Okay.
Point blank. And because it was live, like, you know what I mean?
It was fun.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, just everything that I was about was there. You know what I mean? Girls, fucking weed, my dudes.
Liquor.
Hip hop, liquor, the gods. You know what I mean? All of that.
Cigarettes.
Everything.
Everything.
Everything that I would want to indulge in was there.
Well, let me ask you a question. What did your parents think about you hanging out in the projects? Do they know, number one?
Yeah, they knew. I'm not too sure what they was thinking. Like, you know what I mean?
So they never told you don't go over there?
Well, they just always like, be careful. Nah, but they never could tell me nothing, really. Like, I was the oldest, My pops Ben was telling me from a young age to hold down the fort and you the man of the house and all of this type of shit from a young age. So in my mind, even 7, 8 years old, I'm thinking I'm still in charge of my moms and my grandmoms and shit like that. You understand? Even though I'm a young kid. So when I start to get, 13, 14, you can't really tell me nothing other than be careful.
Okay. So you'd go hang out in the projects. Did that continue as you became Lord Jamar and Brand Nubian album came out and everything else like that?
Well, not necessarily. Like at some point, see, when you focused on your goals, you can't always make the same moves that you've been making. Like, you know what I mean? So there was a point where, I'm out there selling crack and shit like that. And then motherfuckers start getting sealed indictments and shit like that. You know what I mean?
What do you mean by a sealed indictment?
Well, like, they gather enough evidence on you surreptitiously where when they come through now, you don't even have to have nothing on you per se. Like, they already got you on an indictment and shit. They just come.
Shit you've already done.
Yeah, you've been selling the undercovers for a long time or some
Right.
shit like
They're
that.
building a
And
case
didn't
against
know.
you.
But then one day they might come through on a sweep where they got sealed indictments on a bunch of motherfuckers at once. Like, you know what I mean? Take the whole lobby full of motherfuckers on some sealed indictment shit. And I remember that happened one time, and I had just missed it. Like, you know what I mean? Because I went home at the end of the night and this happened like in the, the wee hours of the morning.
How old were you at the time?
17, maybe, some shit like that.
Okay. Still in high school?
Yeah. So I'm like, yo, I said, I know I'm doing this rap shit. Like this is gonna happen. Like, so I gotta stop moving how I've been moving. Like,
so up until, well, even after your record deal, you were still selling crack?
No, not after my record deal, but
Up until?
Like, when we was going to the studio and shit, like, I had stopped, but I still had money out there. You understand what I'm saying? So there still was work out there, and I still was,
Collecting.
yeah, and that was helping us too get to the studio and shit like that.
So so you were paying for your studio time with crack money.
Well, we wasn't necessarily paying for the studio time, but like we was getting, transportation and food and shit like that, and just having some extra paper and shit like that.
Well, how old were you when you started selling crack?
I mean, the first thing I ever sold was coke, and I was like 13.
So at 13 you started selling coke.
Word, before I even sold weed.
Okay. How did you get into selling coke?
Just this dude I knew who was older than me, and fucking.
So he just fronted it for you. He said, okay, bring back this much.
Yeah, because he had it. He was from Washington Heights and all of that.
Right.
But he was like a super or something in my building. Like he worked in my building like as a janitor or some shit like that. Okay. But he was kind of younger. He might have been like 19, 20 or some shit like that.
So at 13 years old, he gave you some coke. You sold it. You brought him back the money. Got some more coke. And then there you go. You're now a drug dealer.
Basically. I'm sniffing it a little bit too.
Really?
Hell yeah.
At 13?
At 13. You know what I mean?
Your parents have any idea?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely.
Your brothers?
Nope. Not at that point. They was, I'm the oldest, so they was younger than me.
So you're selling and doing coke. Was there ever a time where you're basically, fucking up and not, basically getting high off your own supply and not bringing back the money that was expected?
Very early on that happened, and that taught me a lesson.
What happened?
You don't never want to owe nobody. I mean, I don't know exactly the whole circumstances, but I just remember like I came up short or some shit like that.
And what was the guy's response?
I mean, this was a big scary motherfucker too,
Right.
But he had love for me or whatever, you know what I mean? So it was like, don't let that shit happen again type of shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think the anxiety about what I thought he was going to do was worse than what really.
Do you think he was going to kill you?
No.
Do you think he was going to hurt you?
Maybe beat me up.
Beat you up?
Yeah. Like, this was a big motherfucker, and he was way older than me. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
So after that
taught me a valuable lesson. You don't never want to owe nobody no shit. Like, you don't want to owe nobody, And to this day, I don't like owing nobody nothing.
So you continue to sell coke.
Mm-hmm. And then it goes into weed, mescaline.
Yeah. I mean, were you still getting high? Or after that, were you kind of like,
Nah, shit, I fuck with coke. Yeah. Off, I was never like a head, but, I fucked with coke up until 19, 20, some shit like that.
At what point did you start selling crack?
When crack got popular.
The 80s.
Yeah, like the middle, 85, maybe 86.
What do you think changed once crack came on the scene? Because crack comes from coke, but the effects are slightly different.
It's just, but when you cook it and some shit they was putting in it that was different, like, you know what I mean? Because the old school motherfuckers, they used to freebase, which is cooking up coke and smoking it. But it didn't have the same effect that crack had. I don't know if it was something they started cutting it with different. This is what I heard. They started cutting it with some other shit at the coke level back in the days. And then once you started mixing it with the baking soda and all this type of shit, there's chemical reactions, man. You know what I mean? And so I can't fully explain it, but it was mad more addictive than regular coke.
Did you ever actually try crack?
Yes, I did.
You smoke crack?
Yes, I have.
Okay. What was different about smoking crack than sniffing coke for you?
I don't know. I guess it's more intense. Okay. Yeah, I guess it's just more intense or something. I don't know.
When people say...
See, because we used to smoke rulers and shit, like weed with the coke, well, first you smoke coke cigarettes and you even have coke joints, but then you thinking, because when the crack first, nobody knew. Like, so you're thinking this is some coke shit, like that this is some fly shit. Like I used to be in the Latin quarters, okay? Coke in $100 bill, sniffing it in front of bitches, you know, trying to impress them.
Right.
Like, I got coke. Look, I'm 15 and I got coke. I'm sniffing coke and blowing coke cigarettes in your face. Like, yeah, you smell that shit, right? I'm a live motherfucker, live. These young boys don't know, but I got that coke. What's up? You know what I mean? Yeah. That's the type of shit. Like, it was some fly shit. But then niggas start smoking those woolers. And then you see certain motherfuckers who you looked up to. This was all they was doing was smoking. They're not even smoking it out the pipe. And then they fucked around and got hooked. And now these same motherfuckers used to look up to, used to have all the jewelry and the fila suits, and now they looking like bums. You're like, what the fuck? What happened? And they're like, yo, smoking them woolers. Like, word? Like, damn, my dude. Like, I don't know. And I think the only thing that saved me was having knowledge of self and knowing that I was God and knowing that I'm supposed to be the master of all things and nothing is supposed to master me. That's the only thing that I believe saved me.
Well, and also seeing that.
Yeah, but shit, a lot of people have seen it and still do it.
True. I mean, like, for example, I'll tell you, like, I've never tried Coke. And I believe the reason I never tried Coke was because a close friend of mine who I grew up with overdosed and died at 23 off of Coke.
Right.
And I never tried it at that point. And then when I saw that, I said, oh, okay, this is serious.
Yeah, see, if I would have saw something like that, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I went to his funeral, everything. Like, it was like, you know, watching his grandparents and parents cry. And, you know, it was like, okay, I'm going to leave this stuff alone. So I'm sure seeing these fly dudes cracked out played some sort of role in your decision.
Absolutely. You don't want to be that dude.
You don't want to be that.
You don't want to be that.
Like, you don't aspire to be a crackhead.
Right. See, and so my love for hip hop and broads kept me focused.
So at 19, you completely stopped.
Yeah, see, what happened was I had an incident where I almost had a heart attack from sniffing coke.
This is how my friend died. He had a heart attack and died.
Right. But see, I was like 18, I think. Maybe even 17, 18, yeah. Okay. And like, I remember I'm at his crib and, yo, we had a lot of coke this night or whatever. And so at the end of the night, I remember my heart fucking feeling like it's jumping out my chest. And at some point I'm thinking, yo, you might should go to the hospital. But then, like, you're still young and you're like, damn, how am I gonna explain this shit to my moms and all this type of shit? I'm going to the hospital on some coke shit, you know, at that. So my dumb ass was like, you know what? Here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna go to sleep. If you wake up, you're never gonna do this shit again. And I went to sleep. And when I woke up, I was like, yes, I'm not fucking with this no more.
So you actually went to sleep thinking you might die?
Yes.
Pretty scary.
Yeah.
Pretty scary thing.
And I was like, yes, cool. And so then maybe like 2 weeks had passed and like, I don't know, somebody was smoking like a Coke cigarette and they passed it around. And I just took a little hit off of it. And then I felt my heart. I said, okay. All right, that's it. I never fucked with it again. Like, never fucked with it again. Yeah. So,
and this was more than 20 years ago.
Yeah. Like, definitely never during any Brand Nubian days had I ever fucked with any coke. I mean, I used to smoke dust too. We used to smoke dust back in the day.
Dust is PCP?
Yeah. We used to smoke that dust.
I interviewed Christ Bearer.
The nigga that cut his own dick off, right?
Christ Bearer was on PCP. He had 3 baby mothers. He was on some PCP haze. he wanted to call his baby mothers. 'Cause I guess he had restraining orders or some shit, and his shit was, the relationships were all fucked up, and so forth. He couldn't get a hold of them, and his homies wouldn't lend him the phone and whatever. And in the PCP, haze, he decided that a vasectomy would solve all his problems. So he pulled out a steak knife and cut off this part of his penis.
I did grab the knife, and it was like out of frustration due to the fact I couldn't see my kids, and vasectomy and monk type of shit was on my mind. You know what I mean? And when you high off that shit, anybody who fuck with it before, that's what niggas kill shit off for. Just give you the mind state to, fuck the world to degrees that, niggas who never did it before probably wouldn't understand. But it's not all bad, I'm gonna tell you that. But it is more bad than good.
And I remember talking to him, I don't remember if it was on or off camera, but I said, listen, I can guarantee you 100% that after this comes out, and I don't know whether you're gonna meet the person who you affected or not, but I can guarantee you someone's gonna watch this and say, I'm not gonna do PCP. If PCP could potentially make me cut off my own penis,
and this is why
I'm not gonna do PCP.
I mean, this is why things happen in the world, to be a catalyst for something else. It's like everything is of service, even the bad things. You see? So when somebody does some shit like that, that can serve as a lesson for someone else to say, you know what, I'm not gonna fuck with this, because that can lead to me cutting my own dick off, and that's some bullshit.
Any crazy stories off PCP?
Nah, I mean, I remember one time, because I know how to handle my shit most of the time. One time I was in a fun house, though, and I got stuck. Stuck is when you really fucked up. You know what I mean? And, I remember just getting hot and taking my shirt off, and I'm running up on, looking at motherfuckers all in their face, and these motherfuckers, I was like 15 maybe at the time. They could have pounded me out, and they like, oh, little man is dusted, get out of here. You know what I mean? And I'm at the bar, and milk is supposed to bring you down. So I'm at the bar, bang, yeah, I need milk. And I don't hear that they're telling me we don't have milk or some shit. Some crazy shit.
Because I remember, I guess during that time, Beastie Boys' first album came out, and all through the album, but I can't pay attention because I'm on that dust. Went in the bathroom, rolled myself a woola. All this shit you're talking about was apparently some New York shit. That was right. The Beastie Boys were doing it. I guess they're a little bit older than us, and it's this what was happening in New York. People were doing PCP, people were
Lenox Avenue, all up and down Lenox, 110th, 116th, that's that Bomber Zeke, Voltron, that's where all the dust, fucking even the heroin and all that shit was.
You ever try heroin?
I sniffed it twice in my life.
Sniffed heroin?
Yeah. I didn't like it though.
Didn't like it?
Nah, because I wanted to be up, you know what I mean? And I remember when I sniffed it, the motherfucker who got me to sniff it got mad, nigga, you don't know what to feel, motherfucker. This shit good as a motherfucker. Boy, I was like, man, fuck that. But we was young.
Yeah. Now, I remember a drug dealer friend of mine used to tell me how where he was from, the OG D-boys, their crews, they would always have a heroin addict in their crew because
test the shit out.
Well, to test the shit out, number one, but number two, if they wanted someone to go in a restaurant and kill everyone in the restaurant,
right?
That's the guy that was going to do it, because
they'll do whatever to get that.
They would do whatever to get some more heroin. If you tell them go do this and I'll give you a bunch of heroin,
right?
Okay,
you got it.
We're talking about very, very heavy drugs here.
Actually, a friend of mine, he couldn't kick it, and he ended up committing suicide 18.
Yeah. Horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've never tried that. I've never, I'm pretty much just a weed dude.
Yeah, and that was always my foundational thing. I've always been a weed dude, always. And that's been the one constant thing that I never stop.
Right. I mean, it's dope that you could talk about it, and you don't sugarcoat it.
I made it through.
Right, because once this comes out, it's like, oh,
I knew he was a crackhead. Look at that motherfucker. That's why he's sitting on Vlad's couch. He probably gives him crack at the end of every fucking interview and shit.
I pay you with crack.
Yeah, he pays me in crack and shit.
Man, see, a master, right, is one who knows and understands something. The only way you're going to master something is to know and understand it, is to go through it. I can speak from experience, you see? And I could say, nah, that's a weak man right there. He's weak. You know why? Because I know what it is to be strong. I went through the same shit. Nigga, you smoked crack and became a crackhead. I smoked it and didn't become one. Because of the power of my mind.
You don't think that some people...
Yeah, some people have addictive personalities. And
are just born that way.
There's chemistry. Yeah. All of that goes into it. It's not just one thing.
Some people self-medicate. Some people have mental disorders and they try to self-medicate.
Right. I mean, I think we all might be guilty of that a little bit.
A little bit. Now, what if, for example, like, how old are your kids?
22 and 16.
22 and 16. If one of your kids came, said, hey, Dad, I seen this interview. I decided to experiment myself too. What would you tell them?
Decided to experiment with what? Just drugs, period?
Coke, crack, heroin, PCP.
I mean, I tell them, don't fuck with it. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, they're going to do what they do. You know what I mean? And I already know my son has tried whatever these young boys be fucking with right now.
Molly.
He's probably tried that before.
Yeah? Did he talk to you about it?
Yeah, he's talked to me about certain things. You know what I mean?
And what'd you tell him?
Told him you was stupid for, you know what I mean? Yeah. For fucking with certain shit. Like, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I know that there's certain things that we all have to go through in order to learn our life lessons. And see what separates us from the animals is the fact that we have the freedom to choose. The freedom to choose right from wrong. It's put out there for you. And now you can choose to do right or you can choose to do wrong. But there's going to be a cause and effect for either thing that you do.
Right.
So, listen, if you choose to take drugs or if you choose to fucking, do some gay shit or whatever, there's consequences for everything that we do. If you choose to, save somebody from a burning building, there'll be an effect from that. We all have free will. You see? And that's what separates us. A bird doesn't have the option to say, I don't want to fly. I know I'm supposed to fly. I have these wings, but I'm not going to fly. I'm just going to walk around. Fuck what all these other birds is doing. They don't consciously say, I'm not going to fly. But you consciously have the free will to choose whatever as a human being. And so just admit that it's all a choice. Even the choice, you know what I thought about? I hate when they say, nobody chooses to be heterosexual. Like, yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Like, it's a choice to have sex.
Yeah.
You don't have to have sex.
It's a process.
Just because you might be attracted to the opposite sex, it's your choice to act on that. So, I just want to say that.
Yeah, my cousins, they were avid watchers in porn and had saw me on MILF Hunters.
Okay.
They saw me on MILF Hunters, and they went out and actually bought a movie and took it to my grandmother.
You're the only person, one of the few people that looks like you. In my case, one of the only ones that was light-skinned. Our family was light. Therefore, when we go to our village, and when I actually buried my father, I had to bury him. I had to bring up a lot of AK-47s.